Hey.
Hello, everyone. Hello,
Hey.
and welcome to the second Mackmyra Inn, your local V pub. Thank you, everyone, for joining. How good is that intro? I enjoy the music.
Pretty cool. I wanted it to carry on. I was enjoying it.
Me too. I was tapping my foot along to that one quite nicely. So, hello from me, Richard McKay. I'm a brand ambassador for Mackmyra and landlord, or co-landlord, I should say, of the Mackmyra Inn. Up to my corner here, got it right first time, is my fellow landlord, Mickey Plummer. Hello, Mickey.
How are we doing, guys? Are you well tonight?
There's a delay there. And Matt, who everyone I think will know, Matt McKay, of Dramble and Bimber fame, one of the nicest guys in whiskey. So hello, Matt, as well.
Oh, hey, Rich. Good to see you guys. It's been ages.
What a title there, Matt, though. What a title. One of the nicest men in whiskey. You need to live up to that now. No pressure, Matt.
Oh, you say that. I wrote something today on my website, which wasn't actually that nice. So, yeah, it's a bit of a pretense, but I'll try and be nice with you this evening, chaps.
Well, perfect. So what we're going to do today, I think anyone that's watched any of our Mackmyra live shows, we tend to have a focus of them or a bit of a reason for having one of the shows. But the Mackmyra Inn is just basically everyone turns up, get your drinks ready at home, you dram along with us, let us know what you're drinking. You'll obviously see what we're drinking. We'll talk a bit about whiskey and talk a bit about, well, just about anything that comes up, I guess. But please be as interactive. Be as interactive as you like to be, or you can be. Follow us along if you post any pictures of what you're drinking at home. We might be able to get it up on the screen as well if you use the hashtag Mackmyra Life or Mackmyra Inn. Sorry, Mackmyra Inn. So with Matt here, what we're going to talk about, some of the things at least, will be Matt's whiskey passions, some of the things you might be interested in outside of whiskey, and a little bit about what Bimber might be up to, this year and the start of next. I'm particularly interested in hearing about the club bottle, I'll say. So that's probably enough from me from an intro. I will say a couple of things actually, though. You might have seen if you're on our mailing list. Information coming out about our Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals starting next week. But you can check those out at mackmyra.co.uk. Some really good offers happening there. And and you'll see some details for our Christmas show that's happening on the 28th of December. So 29th. I thought I had that right first time. I got it wrong yesterday.
So close.
I should just write it down. 20. I mean, tune in on the 28th, but expect a long wait for the show to begin.
Yeah.
But that's enough from me, I think, as an intro. So, Mick, have you got anything to say hello to people with?
So, guys, again, welcome back to the Mackmyra Inn, our virtual boozer to relax you at the end of a busy working from home or another busy working from home lockdown week down there in England, but also up here where I am in Glasgow. We've just, as of now, we've just gone into our level 4 lockdown as well. So no traveling, no nothing. No fighting people in Tesco's for toilet roll. Other supermarkets are available, but don't go fighting in those for toilet roll either, guys. Okay, there's plenty enough to go around, and we've certainly got plenty enough whiskey. So
looking behind us,
guys, drop the comments. Ask any questions of myself and Rich, or of Matt as well. Obviously, I always point the wrong way for some reason. I can never get it right. Yeah, there you go. So I just start doing a bit of a dance in the pub, like, do you know what I mean? But no, I think the first thing, Rich. I think the first thing we should do really is.
That must be 6:05 or 18:05, as close to it as possible.
Exactly. So mine and Rich's round. Who wants what? We'll start off with our guest, Matt. What are you having this evening?
I'm starting with a beer. It's just the end of the week. Start slowly. I say slowly. So one of my when I'm not into whiskey, I quite like my beers. This is a beer from. Let's try and do that. This is a beer from one of my favourite breweries, The Dun. Based in the West Country. This is a double IPA at 8% called 5 AM. So I say starting lightly, I'm patently lying. But yeah, we'll start with a beer.
I like the labelling on that. It's very minimalist.
On this one it is, but yeah, on others.
Just look back to me, but I can see the side of it now. Obviously, I'm sort of eating my words.
Those things. Yeah.
Well, very good. And Mickey, what about you? What have you got?
So this evening I've decided to do myself a wee cocktail, Rich. to go for one of a Mackmyra signature serve. It's called a shushba, which I thought was quite appropriate. So that's 45 ml of Skål, 10 ml of maraschino liqueur, or however you pronounce it. I've always struggled to pronounce that word. Maraschino. I think that's roughly about it, isn't it? Yeah. 10 ml of cherry liqueur, 5 ml of ogret syrup. That's quite an unusual ingredient. Well, it is for me anyway. I only buy it to make cocktails with. Yeah, exactly. It's like almond syrup or something like that, I think. And 15 ml of lemon juice in your shaker, over some ice, and in a rather enjoyable coupe glass. So what have you got yourself, sir?
Oh, I've just gone straight in for a dram. I think I know you started with a G&T last week, and I thought I might start with a long drink, and then I thought, no, I'm going straight in. So I didn't really know what to have. So just before we started, I did what I usually do and just stand in front of the shelf and just look around until something sort of jumps out and speaks to me. So I've gone for the Mackmyra. I've gone for the Caribbean, the rum cask.
Nice plantation rum casks. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think I was looking at our new one, the Shushbar, the KBR, as we're calling it internally, because we don't have time to keep saying that much. We're too busy. But I didn't want to start on something smoky, so I thought I'll just start with rum influenced and some sweetness to it and a bit of meat.
Do you guys have a weekly test at Mackmyra on pronunciation?
You should.
I don't see. You shouldn't say that, Matt, because now, see, if somebody in Sweden's watching, they probably are. That's you done for now. That's us out on weekly tests now. So thanks for that, pal.
That's all right. Just make sure you're getting it right, because you're all doing it really confidently.
Well, I think confidence. You do it confidently, and people think, "Oh, that's the right way of doing it." You look like you're right, and then who knows when they'll find out how wrong you were. Buy some time.
Right, so Camille's gone for a Vithund and tonic.
Oh, cheers, yeah.
So Camille's gone for a Vithund and tonic. So Vithund is our new make spirit, essentially, but taken down to 46.1%. So that would be quite interesting. That would be quite refreshing. I'd like that. And good old Dave is our good friend Dave Worthington, or Boutique Dave, to his whiskey pals, is lining up a tasting for Boutique at 7.
Dave will be joining us in a couple of weeks as well. For anyone watching, we've got a very special episode and quite a cool theme as well lined up that we'll tell everyone about in the coming days. But yeah, tune in. Oh, Nick Ken, hello Nick.
Yes.
Hello Nick.
Not that you need an excuse, Nick, but yeah, go for it, my
man. That's Nick from Whiskey and Things, the awesome whiskey and thing based podcast. So hello Nick, thanks for joining. So Matt, what sort of things beside beer and whiskey? Are there other drinks that you're interested in? Is there other things that you have, passion for, enthusiasm around?
Sure. So I like most things, but I don't think you can necessarily have all the time in the world to focus on everything, right? You can't be a master of everything, and even being a master of one thing is pretty difficult. My two loves, as a lot of people know, are whiskey and beer. One better for the waistline than the other. I quite like rum, some proper rum. I quite like doing some rum tastings and trying to persuade people that rum doesn't need to be full of caramel colorants and doesn't need to be spiced and full of flavors. And I'm struggling with that because my lot seem to really like the sort of dark, spicy rum. So that's a work in progress. I quite like gin, but not as much as my wife. But in order to understand booze, you have to try it. So I have my favourites, but I'm fairly open to, you want to whip me up a cocktail like Nikki's got there. Fantastic. Give it a go. You never know what you're going to find. And there's just some wonderful drinks, not just whiskey, just drinks. Wonderful drinks across the whole world.
Especially with a lot of these micro distilleries popping up, and they're not doing whiskies, etc. They are doing like some really cool rums and some gins and some spirit drinks, I suppose. That they're advertising themselves on. Do you know what I mean? And it's nice to see different things come out that have got various botanicals and flavorings and stuff, and they're not just back there a big old gin banner on the front of the bottle and try to pass it off as a gin, So I quite like certain things like that for sure. And I think mezcals and tequilas are making a bit of a rise up in popularity. Probably not as far as whiskey and gin and rum is again, really. But I think that's
yeah, I mean, it's been the year of rum every year that I can remember.
Yeah, rum's the next big thing. All right, cool.
Yeah,
big wave of gin pass through.
The next big thing, yeah, mezcal and tequila. If that can start growing over here, I've tried quite a few of those since. Well, I think the first, well, everyone's, I don't know about everyone, but certainly myself and my friends' first experience of tequila was just slamming shots back in a bar when we were, 18 to whatever 20s we were in. And then the hangover that comes with it, and just the smell of your sweat in the coming days. So when I found out that tequila could be more than that, it was only last year. And I think I've probably tried only 3 or 4 now, but I've been getting slowly into it. But getting over that sort of sensory things can take you back to a time and a place or an experience so quickly and so easily. Music, smell, taste, whatever it might be. And
so that makes you what, Rich? 22 years old?
Did I say something about the dates? Maybe, yeah, slightly older, let's say. Maybe that and half again. But if you think I look 22, I'll take it.
No, you don't.
No,
I don't have the liver of a 22-year-old. I know that. Yeah, unfortunately.
No, I think it's like you're saying, and I'm sure Matt's probably his first time with anything tequila based. If you don't live in Mexico, then like mezcals and tequilas, your first shot of it was whatever's behind the bar, £1 shoot a night, bosh, here we go. Do you know what I mean? Let's see who can break the 10 number. Do you know what I mean? And the horrendous fallout that comes with all that malarkey. But I one of the biggest eye openers I had was when I did my WSET level 1 and level 2 courses in spirits. I know, Matt, you've done the WSET wines and spirits, so that was a couple of
I did wines and spirits, and very pertinently, I did my general certificate in distilling exam this morning.
Nice.
So it was really difficult. Let's see. But yeah, tequila and agave are mandatory components. So actually, I probably now know more about how it's made than I do about the flavor and experience of it. There's not enough time to try it all. But certainly the ones I've tried, just tequilas and mezcals that, you got to go a little bit wider for and explore. What a fantastic, spirit, particularly the mezcals. A lot of you guys will know I like smoky things, and so the mezcal, the way it's made, you're going to get
smoky,
earthy cooking smoke through it. So it's something I really want to explore. There's just not enough time and liver.
It's really not, is there?
So for me, the WSET course last year, when I mentioned it was only last year that I started discovering that things could be a bit different. It was on the same course that you guys have done, and a big component. And one of the things I took away from that was I thought it was very interesting, at least to me, that whiskey, you've got your grain growing in the field in a matter of weeks or however, a few short months, and that's growing there. Then it goes into a cask for 10 years, let's say. Whereas with tequila and mezcal, it's the other way around. So you've got the agave plants growing for anywhere from 8 to sometimes 30 odd years, depending on which type of agave it is. And then it goes through the production process, and even if it goes into a cask, it's likely only going to be in there for a few months at most, or maybe a year or two. So it's the same length of time to create tequila that it does, a whiskey on average, but it's all done the other way around. Yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting thing. And you mentioned, Matt, you're really into smoky whiskey. I actually only discovered from Mickey last week that one of his favourite distilleries happens to be one I know that you and I share, which is Leipzig.
Leipzig, yay! Yeah, no, I knew that Mickey shares our passion for the perversely peated spirit that Tobermory produced.
That oily, earthy, dirty, silagey notes. I can't get enough of.
I always feel it's a sort of rites of passage dram. In that I don't know anybody who said, "Hey, I'm just getting into whiskey," and you say, "Ah, what you enjoying?" No one says Leipzig. For me, you need a little bit of time under your belt. You need to explore things. Possibly even things like Ardbeg and even Laphroaig, which is not messing at all. To get your palate to a point where you can possibly understand such a weird and difficult to explain and describe spirit.
Just to give people a bit of context on that as well. And we're not meaning for the peated levels in the ppms. Definitely not. It's more of the complexity of the dram that's been put together for you. You know, I think the standout for me in the last 5 years has been the Lechic 18, the sherry cask 18-year, and that's just been, you know, it started off as a limited, and it took off so well that it's now part of the core range. Unfortunately, they've got rid of the handmade wooden boxes that it started to come in originally, which were just beautiful. I'm quite glad though, really, because you know there's only a certain amount of room in a flat a man can have to store wooden boxes that he has actually no need for. You know,
I'm really. I mean, if I was doing this VT from next door in the bar, you'd see that I hate boxes. Yeah. You know, they look really nice. Some of them are really crafted really beautifully, but they're a pain in the ass, and you know they take up a lot of space. So there's very few boxes in this house. Most whiskey comes in, it's taken out the box, and the box is gone.
The most boxes I've got are for my work shelf. So and that's just for as a background for this type of thing more than anything else, really. Do you know what I mean?
Product placement.
But yeah. So I have to position myself correctly in the front room to make sure, depending on who I'm talking about, goes what shelf is there.
No, you're fine, mate. Your top left is looking good. You're on brand, so happy days.
Oh yeah, I can see the top left. So you can't see. So mine, I've got my Bimber ones are up, just up there, and there's one behind it.
You're very lucky that you've actually got a top shelf that will fit those bottles. They are inordinately tall.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's not necessarily the bottle, it's the heel of the glass, which is really fit. And I had a sort of space in my house where I was going to put all of my Bimber bottles. No.
Where are they then?
Because of the shelving that I've got, I actually had to go and buy another set of shelves. So when Bimber released their last lot of the single cask stuff, as opposed to the small batch stuff, I was like, all right, great, that can. And then you try and put it in front of the others on the thinner top, and it's like, no, that's not working. But this can only go on a top shelf. Bum. Right, so I had to go then buy another set of shelves, which coincidentally have been very filled up very fast anyway. So a couple of the other shelves have had some more space to breathe, as it were. But all of a sudden, that breathing space has got less as well. So
collecting or drinking whiskey requires forethought in terms of storage, right?
It certainly does.
If you just get some shelves, you're going to find that bottles don't fit. And you know, when people used to ask me, Matt, what size gap in the shelf should I get? I always used to say Penderyn, because the old style Penderyn bottle, that used to be the tallest one that I knew of. And I said,
Spey's another one.
Spey's another one. Good example. Measure the gap. If the bottle fits, fine. And then Bimber, the distillery I work for, decided to go, nah, mate, it's even bigger now.
So my top shelf is either too tall or too good to be elsewhere. Basically, that's the system for it.
Do you need a little step to get up there?
I might to get to the back, because it's actually I've got the front line, but then there's actually like 2 layers behind them. You can just see behind these boutiques.
I can see an XOP, some Bimbers, some boutiques.
A few boutiques. The XOP, that's my first ever purchase from an auction as well. That's a 21-year-old Bamor, but I haven't tried it yet.
Well, that's the thing.
It's good. Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
That is good. So a picture flashed up there of the first release from Bimber.
Our first ever release,
Yeah. I'm just saying we don't keep boxes, but I still have, obviously my bottle of first edition is well polished off, but I've still got the box down the side of my shelves just there, just because it is such an art of craftsmanship that went into that box, with the magnetic catches and everything that goes with it. It's like this honestly, I've got no use for it, right? Apart from to look at, but it's such a waste to throw such a craft thing away.
Well, I was going to ask if you had a use for it, because you spoke about the 18-year-old Lechic with the wooden boxes a moment ago.
Yeah.
I've got one of those, like, from a bottle that's long gone. But I've kept that box, and I keep receipts and random bits of paperwork in it while I work out what job that box will do. Eventually, I just loose paperwork goes into there.
You could have some fun with it, Richard. You could take all your empty boxes and you could put different bottles in them and then put them on the shelves. And then when you have a friend round, then say, "Oh, what do you fancy?" And it's Lucky Dip, and oh no, that's not what you got.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A bit of.
So Nick's throwing some shade at you there, Matt, as well.
No, it's a thing. I'm very proud of our bottles. They're great glass. They are custom glass. And you're completely right, Mickey. The packaging for the one was made by Darius, our master distiller, also owns a carpentry firm. And I saw those boxes being made. They were all made by hand. They are beautiful in terms of the craftsmanship, and particularly the magnetics, which hold it all together. But yeah, they're really big. So anyone who says Bimber's bottles are really tall, I'm not going to argue. They wouldn't even fit on the shelf that I thought I was going to put them on. They're tall. But you're getting a nice bottle of glass. It's got a nice weight to it. And yeah, we've moved obviously over to the tubes now, which are a lot more environmentally friendly as well. And we just don't have the ability to be producing boxes.
You mentioned Darius as a carpentry firm as well. Is that something that he did before starting Bimber, or is that like a passion of his that started up at the same sort of time?
That's something that he did before he started Bimber. He runs a carpentry firm called Dharma. It's based yards round the corner from the distillery. Everyone there is highly skilled carpenters, and they double up as our coopers. That's where all of our barrels are checked, recharred, played with. They're the guys who built our fermenters, which a lot of people, it's an image that has become quite synonymous with Bimber, our homemade fermenters. They're the guys who come around and fix the stills. They're a really, really talented bunch. So we're super privileged to have, it's literally like 300 yards away, access to, all these skilled craftsmen, whereas a lot of distilleries, something goes wrong and you got to make a call and it's like, yes, mate, I'll be there in 4 days. We can get something done in 4 minutes. Which is great because we're so small and because our output is so small, that downtime in plant is even more serious for us than someone else. Not in terms of volumes, but in terms of our scale. So having the ability to, have these really skilled people to help us with all sorts of tasks is fundamentally part of what Bimber is.
That's interesting you say, because I think the last time I was in, I think was must have been October or the end of September. And the still, your wash still had been taken away because it had gone down. But then I think while we were there, it came back and it was only a few hours out of action. And now I realise why it was so speedy. But that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
it's one thing about this.
Really lucky. There he is. There's the boss. There's the boss.
So when I first met him, when I come down, would it have been a year ago now? But when you launched the competition. For people posting photos.
And you came down and had an evening with myself and Darius. Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah.
And I just couldn't get over the size of it. Not just. I mean, he's a fairly big guy anyway, but just the size of the man's hands.
I was going to say his hands. I wanted to make a joke when I saw that glass about that being a pint glass, but his hands are enormous. So yeah, good for
you want him on your side.
Oh, 100% without question, without.
Yeah. Well, the first time I came in, he was holding a dog that was very small, and he made it look even smaller than it. Well, I think I met you there the first time I came, Matt. In probably only would have been July or August. But that dog he made it look even more tiny than a regular sized person would. I know that.
No, he's a gentle giant.
Mm-hmm. Well, talking about Bimber, I think anyone watching that's come to see, I've followed you here, probably be very interested in hearing a bit about the club bottle. Perhaps I'm asking really for myself and trying to make it sound as though I'm doing it for other people. But
Rich, you might be a club member, but I'm a founders member, darling. So
no one likes to show off, Nicky. Yeah.
Well, look. So let's deal with both of you, darlings. So the founders bottling is selected. We are, as I spoke about before we sort of kicked off tonight, bottling like crazy at Bimber at the moment. We've got a flurry, not a snow flurry, but a bottle flurry of releases for Christmas. One of those is the founders release, which will be with our founders beginning of December. And you will receive an email probably next week telling you exactly what it is. The Bimber Club release, we were hoping to get that out. So just to rewind, Bimber Club is our members option. It's a £40 lifetime membership, all sorts of benefits in terms of access to the distillery, tours when we're able. There will be events next year if the government lets us do it. I've got my eyes on a club members open day. Lots of things coming when we're allowed. COVID really annoyed me. And of course, the annual club bottling. We were going to try and get this out for the beginning of November, but what we have to do is make sure that we can get all of the bottle numbers to match to all of the member numbers. Because that's a fundamental thing that we want to do, that, you know, as your journey with Bimber continues, you buy your member's bottle and that's your number. That's, you know, and you're going to, if you want to buy them, you'll end up with a nice collection, all with your special number on it. And we didn't really think about how we were going to do that. And now we have, but it's taken a few weeks to work out the process of how we're going to ensure that when you place an order in, we know who it is and it's this bottle and it goes in the right box. That is going to be, I haven't even told anyone this, the communications are all written. That's going to be next week. We're going to be opening orders for club bottles next week. An email is ready to go. It is our first ever PX finish. There are 1,198 bottles, which is just simply the capacity of the cask that we were using. So ex-bourbon, a little bit over 3 years old, finished for roughly 4 months in PX. Yeah, and that's the sort of first thing that we're doing for club members. It has its own livery. I've posted a few teasers online of the tubes coming in and bits and pieces. But yeah, super exciting. And yeah, we'll be announcing that to all club members next week. And then, of course, anyone who wishes to join Bimber Club after, you get all of those benefits, but then you'll be eligible for next year's bottling. There'll be at least one a year. That's the promise, at least one a year.
That sounds incredibly exciting in terms of a makeup or a recipe for the release. I'll say I was lucky enough to try the PX cask. I think it was fully matured PX in that was absolutely sublime. I love that. You could really get the core. I think the same goes for Bimber as it does with Mackmyra. There's a DNA that you can trace throughout. You know, I know with Mackmyra most of the range, and with Bimber, I've probably tried a good dozen of them now. And I feel as though, although I haven't tried it yet, I feel as though if I was presented a few glasses in a blind tasting, and someone said, "What was this?" I have this hunch that I'll be able to say, "Oh, I think that might be a Bimber," because you get the same sort of mouthfeel, the same sort of notes coming through, and I don't know,
I totally agree with you. And I've written about Mackmyra's, you know, what I just call spirit character before, and I think it's equally as definable as the Bimber one. So I totally agree with you there, Rich. That, you know, you taste it and you're like, hold on a minute. This, you know, whatever it is, the mouthfeel, the sort of, you know, the standard ABV delivery, the selection of fruits, esters. Yeah, totally agree with you. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's what I look for in whiskey. I regardless of the cask, regardless of the age, I want to taste spirit character. I want to taste what has made that spirit what it is. I just saw a quick question from Nick, who was asking when. Hey, bud, when you guys can buy the club bottle, and all being well, next week.
Consider bottle number 54 purchased.
Hey, that's a sale.
Yeah, well, I think I'm 317. I think.
Okay.
Oh, bless.
No, it's not too bad. Well, I'm well in. I'm well under the 1198. The max box.
No, I mean it's completely crazy, and I launched Bimber Club in May. And we've got now 1,300 members, and yeah, it's only November. That's crazy. And so, you know, the sort of love and interest that we've seen, it's fantastic.
Phenomenal.
It's so nice.
I mean, you know, it's obviously grown the Bimber Appreciation Society Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some good chat and that going on there. Occasionally not some good chat with people falling out, and some people think they're entitled to certain things and everything like that. But you know,
there'll be less of that
social media.
there'll be a damn sight more or less than there might have been before, which I think we're all probably everyone knows perhaps what we're talking about. We're very relieved.
Me more than anyone.
Yeah, especially I think it's good that it started. It wasn't, you guys didn't start the club, or the society.
No, nothing.
David.
We spoke about it, right when before we were launching the first release, and we were sort of having a chat, and Darius was like, Matt, how do you want to define our sort of communications and marketing? Do we want to start up a Bimber fan page on Facebook? And we came to the decision that no, fandom and appreciation and love is something that people give us, not that we provide them, and it goes both ways. So we said, no, you know what, we're not going to do this. And we're very fortunate that a group of people have done it for us. And so, as you know, we actively engage, and we comment, post, and we share bits and pieces that we don't share anywhere else. But yeah, it's not a group that we have any say, or we let it run, because we're so lucky to even have it. I think it's 1,000 people now. That's amazing.
Yeah,
very lucky to have it.
Well, well done, Stuart.
Stuart has made it. There we go.
Something I've heard you say. Oh, well, congrats to you too, Matt. I've heard you say before that not everybody's going to, in that first 1,198 are going to opt to buy the bottle. There might be a few people that don't for one reason or another. So anyone that is membership above that number will get an opportunity, perhaps. Is that the case? I think I've heard you say that before.
Effectively, because of the link between membership number and cask size, as the club grows, every release we will add more casks in. But there has to be a cutoff, right? Because particularly on production of tubes and labels, those are done months in advance of the actual sale. So we have to say a point that if you are member X, you're in for this year. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But effectively, I'm expecting that we'll have some members who choose not to buy their club bottle, and then we'll have a waiting list of members over 1198, and we will then offer the newer members an opportunity to buy one of those leftover bottles. Obviously, it won't bear their membership number this year, but come next year, then they'll be in the mix and then available to get their membership number. So, I mean, all we do is to try to be as fair and transparent as we can. It's and you guys know this. Whiskey is not easy, and everyone's got different opinions on how it should be done and what fairness is. And all we try to do is make the best things we can and get it to people as fairly as we can. And so that's the plan.
It all sounds good. It's from club members and founders members' point of views, it's definitely an exciting brand to be a part of, Matt. Do you know what I mean? And you're always going to get haters coming from wherever, or English whiskey, is that even a thing, and everything like that. But there's the English Whiskey Society now.
They've recently renamed.
That's right. So I did get my email. Apologies.
Exploring
English whiskey.
Exploring whiskey. Yeah. Richard Fox, he's a great guy.
That's right. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be part of Bimber. Bimber, in my opinion, is right at the white heat of new distillery excitement. And yeah, it's amazing to be part of that. But equally, let's not forget the whole of English whiskey, which is undergoing a huge renaissance right now. There's amazing liquid being produced by other distilleries, and you've only seen mature whiskey from a very small selection of these English distilleries. You've got us, Cotswolds, Lakes, obviously St. George's, or whatever they call themselves now, Dartmouth. But there are, I think we're up to 24 distilleries now. And so over the next sort of 12 to 24 months, you're going to start to see the fruits of their labors. That's amazing. That's so exciting that not only can you see a distillery that you love, whether it's us or someone else, but you've got more coming down the pipeline. Everyone doing their own things. I think it's a great time to be into English whiskey, because it is just literally about to go poof.
Yeah. White Peak for me is, I mean, there are other distilleries, of course, about to come online, are available or will be soon. But White Peak, one in particular, that I'm very excited about. And although they don't have anything that's 3 years old as of yet, I've been fortunate enough to try probably 4 or 5, perhaps, different expressions that are in, in the early 2 or to mid 2 years, and they've been excellent. I think the first English Whiskey Society, while it was still called that, tasting happened all the way back in July, I think, and it was only about 20, 25 people on it, because there wasn't that much there, I suppose that much many people that are half aware of it or anything as well. But the White Peak was 2 years old, and that was my second favourite of 8 drams that we had that night. And
they're making some amazing whiskey, and it's interesting that you mentioned that the sort of first society tasting only had 25 people, because a few weekends ago I spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday sort of with my Bimber hat on at the English Whiskey Society Festival. And I tell you now, they had a lot more than 25 people there then. It was quite a success, and it was, again, amazing to be part of something which is, you can feel the bubble. You can feel the bubble expanding as you're sitting in it, and people going, wow, English whiskey is worth exploring, and it is a thing. Whereas, I think 5 years ago, if you mentioned English whiskey, people would probably just shrug, and that is rapidly changing, rapidly.
So how did you get into for anyone watching that doesn't know your backstory and how you started with Bimber? How did that all begin?
Long or short version?
Let's start with the short, and then perhaps we'll expand from there. Let's say that.
Short version. I was invited to the distillery at I hate the term, but influencers event. So I went along there. It is my closest distillery. It's my local, not my local V-pub, my local distillery. And I went along there for the evening just to experience it and see it and taste it, and to write about it for my website, thedramble.com. And whilst I was there, I was chatting to Farid, who's part of the team, and we moved on to the subject of marketing communications. And he said, well, and this was going back about 18 months now, he said, yeah, we're coming up to the release of our first whiskey, everything's in place, but we don't have anyone who's doing any marketing or comms. Can you give us a hand? And I said, sure. So, over about a month or 6 weeks, I helped them sift through some fairly shoddy applications, if I'm honest, in terms of PR agencies who were prepared to not really do a lot and didn't understand whiskey. And it got to the point where I said to my wife, I said, you know what? Assuming that my day job okays this, I'm gonna apply to do this. I'm gonna put myself out there and say I will do this for you, because marketing communications is something I've done for over 2 decades. And whiskey is my passion, and here I am. So yeah, that was a pitch that obviously worked.
Yeah, sure. Nice. Well, I think they should be grateful to have you on. I think we've just had a comment from someone from Cam who wants to know the meaning of the name Bimber. But before I ask you, Matt, I think I might hand off to Mickey just so that he can tell everyone what Mackmyra means, and then we'll pass off to Bimber.
Yeah, cool. So Mackmyra, so one word broken down into 2 syllables, really. So Mack meaning, for want of a better word, midgie, yeah, and Myra, swamp, yeah. So like a mire, swamp, bog type of thing. So midgie, swamp, Mackmyra. So it sounds beautiful, tripping off the tongue, Mackmyra. Not so pretty when you actually break it down into what it means.
It makes me laugh that people in Sweden will they all know this. Just as soon as they read it, they know it. But it's taken us over here in the UK years for people to start understanding it means midge bog, midge swamp, whatever it is. I think it's hilarious. But when someone in Sweden looks at the name, they immediately know that that's what it's called. I think it amuses me. But Bimber. So Matt, what's
Bimber?
What's the meaning?
So Bimber's heritage comes from Poland. Darius and his wife, who are our founders, come from Poland. And Darius has a generational history in moonshining, as in illegally making spirit. So his grandfather and his father before him in communist era Poland were making illicit booze away from the prying eyes of the government. But that shaped Darius's early life. They taught him how to distill, fundamentals of it, but B, they fired him up with that passion that making booze is a fun thing. And so the name stems from that, because in Polish, bimba literally means moonshine. So if you go to Poland and say, it's pronounced a little differently. In England, we say bimba, but in Polish, it's more like bimba. If you ask for that in Poland, you're effectively asking for illicit spirit, for moonshine. And if you go online, there's all sorts of web pages which will tell you that a sort of genuine Polish moonshine, you can drink as much as you like of it without getting a hangover. And that's all completely rubbish.
I don't believe it, Matt. I don't believe it.
It's not true, mate. It's not true.
That sounds like something big moonshine puts out for marketing.
Yeah. So no, we've adopted the name bimba, meaning moonshine, from our roots. We've also taken the eagle, which sits atop of the Polish coat of arms.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So we've taken that eagle, which originally is sort of quite old-fashioned and quite heraldic, and it faces to the left, the past. And we've taken the same eagle, we've modernized it and made it look a little bit more 21st century, and we've turned it round to face to the right, which is the future.
I quite like what Thompson Brothers did with the eagle.
So, right. I can't hold it up. I can't look at this bottle without seeing the Muppets eagle character anymore.
I think it's the colour. I think it's the colour that they've done it in. Do you know what I mean?
It is the colour.
What do you think of that? Yeah.
It's a blue eagle. I think Muppets.
I quite like that.
That is an amazing cask, irrespective of whether the label looks like the Muppets, which I think it does. That cask is absolutely fabulous. So yeah, delighted to have our friends at Dorna being our. Wow, he's collapsed. Being our first independent bottler there.
He's back.
And he's back in the room.
Oh, they were your first independent as well, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
Thompson Brothers, Dorna, first independent bottling of bimba.
Yeah, I was in the draw for that, and I didn't get a bottle in any of the subsequent draws either. But I won't hold it against anyone.
I haven't got a bottle at the moment, mate, either. So you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes me feel better. I'm sorry that it's at your expense, but I definitely do feel it.
It's not like you can't play Pokemon with whiskey.
I did manage to get hold of a bottle of the PX cask that I spoke about earlier, though. Through the promotion that you do. I can't remember what. Opened with a picture of an opened bottle. I think it was one of my Peter cask or an Oloroso cask that I bought.
You will see us continuing to do promotions like that. Open your bottles, because we've spent so much time and effort into crafting something that we think's delicious, that we really want people to experience it, and either find it delicious or not. You know, it's a matter of taste. At least taste it. We respect that people do, you know, they're into whiskey for many reasons, you know, collecting, and it's nice to see much better shot now, Mickey. I can see the entirety of your little bimba lot there.
Oh, you can.
I do even more.
I'd have to go that way.
Oh, very good. Very good. You know, and collecting and, you know, that type of passion is absolutely part of the whiskey community. But we do want to see people open their bottles. So we will continue to come up with weird and wacky ways of just trying to encourage people to share a dram with us and let us know what they think.
Yeah, well, everything I've got is going to be opened. If it's not already, it will be at some point. I know that.
All right, mate. Wait, there he is. That's it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Fantastic, Cole. Well done.
See, because I've only just realised now, and you might think I'm daft for only just clocking it, but he's holding a copper pot still, right? I thought he was holding some sort of like old school guitar or ukulele type thing.
No, he is cuddling a pot.
I've never seen it so up close. It makes perfect sense to me now, because I thought it was, you know, bonkers before. But
no, I've having made that link and then done the same thing and Googled a picture of the Blue Eagle. I can't look at the bottle in the same way anymore now.
No, I know exactly what you mean. So
is the blue perhaps from, you know, new make when it first starts coming off? There's a blue hue to it.
No, because that would imply copper sulfate, and there definitely ain't that in there. No, Thompson's have they have full creative control. It's their bottling. It's their label, and we trust them implicitly, and we gave them an amazing cask. So that is all their own work and all their own design. Yeah.
So your one of your responsibilities, we spoke about marketing and PR and things for Bimber, but you also look after selecting casks and what's going to be single cask and what's going to be small batch. And am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, so I mean, Darius is obviously the man. It's his distillery, and he runs the show. But yeah, I do help him out with cask assessment, particularly when it comes to selecting things that we're looking at either for single cask or vatting or for finishing projects. And equally noting and agreeing with him where we find things that are behind the curve, like our port casks. I've spoken about those many times online this year. I won't go through it all again, but Darius and I both agreed that they, after a little remedial fix they just need more time. So yeah, it's something that Darius likes a second opinion on. And so I think I've assessed probably about 200 casks now for Bimber, something like that. So if it's anything from cask 1 to sort of 200, I could probably tell you about. I don't know what's happening with things that are, gestating down the pipeline. There's only so much you can cope.
Indeed.
It's quite funny, Matt, that you mentioned the port cask.
Yep. I know you've got your eye on that, Mickey, and I remember when I think it might have been when I last saw you, that we got Darius to climb up on the pallet. And extract some for you, and you were so happy.
It was the first thing that caught my eye as soon as we walked into the distillery. So we gathered in the distillery. So last year, Bimber run a competition, as I mentioned earlier, to win an evening at Bimber, basically with Matt, with Darius, and some fantastic jams and a decent handful of other people. So we all assembled. We got there, got chatting, having a look around what the reception stroke bar area and things like that when we got there, and then we come around the corner. So to your left, you come around, you see the direct fired pot still. The pot still was away at the time, so you actually got to see the bed, the direct fire bed that it sits on. And then I just looked in front of me to see a wall, like a semi-wall of casks, and the first thing that jumped out at me was Ruby port cask. Bang! Right, I was like, oh. So I didn't want to be rude, unlike me, I know, but I didn't want to be that guy. But as we got talking and stuff like that, and then Darius came up to me and went, "Oh, guys, is there a cask that's caught your eye?" Before anybody, I don't even think you finished your sentence, Matt, to be honest with you. And before anybody could even register what had been asked, I was like, "Port cask!" and pointing straight at him. So he had to climb up a couple of casks, like it looked like a big King Kong climbing the Eiffel Tower, climbing the Empire State Building. Only because you're a big guy, Darius. Okay, I don't mean that in bad.
Well, I hope you didn't turn into Donkey Kong and start throwing those casks and barrels around.
No, mate, I would have caught that and ran.
So yeah, I mean, you were like a kid in the sweet shop. You were a kid in the sweet shop that evening, and it was our pleasure to treat you because we like doing that. But equally, that port cask that you tasted then, just to quickly run through the story. Effectively, we weren't happy with it, and what we did was we opened it up. We discovered that the port wine had built a layer inside the cask, and it was all thick, and it was effectively stopping, maturation. Yeah, completely stopping and also stopping oxygenation, which is fundamental to maturation. And so we stripped it out, we charred it down, we refilled it, and I can tell you now that the port casks, which we will release, not yet, but they are coming along, and they're starting to get to the point where we are now smiling about them. So I know you were smiling about them then. Now we are smiling about them because they're really coming along. I saw a quick question being flashed up, which was, do we get people telling us that Bimber and English whiskey should be spelt with an E or without an E? Of course we do. Of course we do. You don't have to look far on social media to find someone who's an expert on everything. And whiskey, obviously, it's Scotland is without an E and America is with an E, and that's it. That's them the rules. Yeah, it happens all the time, and people who know nothing about anything are very happy to tell you, A, that it needs to be one way, or B, that it is one way and you are wrong, or C, you don't understand the rules when there are no rules governing it. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
and
we get so many posts on our Facebook, Matt, as you would do as well. Do you know what I mean? So people say, "Oh, what's this? It's Swedish whiskey. Is that a thing?" And by the way, you're missing an E. And just all iterations of that same tripe. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, guys, how can you get your knickers in a twist over a letter? I mean, seriously.
I mean, I think it will continue for time immemorial.
Of course it will.
And yeah, it's just people like to think that they know more than you do. Some people like to think that either by having the E or not having the E, that denotes some type of quality, that you're special if you don't have the E.
No.
And you know, and none of it's true. I generally don't engage on it. I've not written a post about spelling. I don't intend to. For me, it's a real non-issue. Whiskey with an E, whiskey without an E. It's all lovely, right? There's some great stuff. But it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. So a good while ago, I actually took the effort for my own sanity. Is that, you know, me saying? I don't know. For my own sanity, to actually Google it and see what the internet throws up. You know. So the general consensus was that Irish and American was with an E. Pretty much everyone else that makes whiskey is without an E.
Unless you're Waterford.
Well, that's a whole different situation altogether, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Then we went the terroir route.
Well, my understanding of it, when I did the same sort of thing that you did, Mick, a while ago, because there were people asking, and I thought, oh, I've never actually found out that countries that follow, my reading of it was countries that follow the way that the Irish produce it tend to put the E in, and the countries that follow the way that the Scottish produce it tend to not. But you say American whiskey, there's actually, because there's close to 5,000 different distilleries making one whiskey or another, one type of whiskey and another in America alone now, and many of them don't have the E. And I think perhaps they're the ones that I don't know what Westlands, whether or not they have an E in theirs. You know, they're single malt from.
They do not.
Yeah, so perhaps because they're following double copper pot still, malted barley production, the same way that Scotch single malt.
They do. No, they do. They do have an E. They do.
Do they have an E? Okay, yeah. Well, I wish I could remember some names off the top of my head now of the Americans that don't, but there are a few.
I think we can all agree, Rich. I think we all agree. There's no rules.
No, exactly.
And do you know what? Who cares? It's a whiskey. Yeah. Smell it, taste it, enjoy it. Don't enjoy it. Whatever.
Talking about
how you spell it.
Mick, have you finished your cocktail yet? How was it, and what have you moved on to?
Yes. So cocktail done and dusted. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, guys. Honestly, experiment me whiskey. I can't emphasize that enough. I've said it on many of our shows we've done before. Experiment, whether that's a dash of water, a dash of soda, a can of Coke. Knock yourself out. It doesn't matter. It's your glass. It's your drink. Okay. Don't let anybody tell you different. But I do quite enjoy making cocktails. Some of the stuff that Camille makes up, it's just like, wow, phenomenal. And I try and recreate it as best I can. I don't come from a hospitality or bar background. So I read a recipe and go, okay, I'll do that. And if I taste it, I go, oh, but I'm getting a bit better. And I go, oh, it needs a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that, or an extra dash of bitters. I'm starting to get there on that. You know what I mean? It's taken a long time, but I'm prepared to put into practice.
Well, I know
it's a hard job.
I know you've experimented a little bit anyway, because the Core Range tasting, the monthly, public access of the Core Range we did last night. You asked people to go and put half of their Brooks whiskey sample, put half in the glass, and then half in the bottle. Go and pop it in the freezer that we revisited towards the end. And Kevin, I'll see in the comments. Hello, Kevin, who joined us last night and did the same experiment as well. And that's the first time I've tried it like that. And although it closed the nose up almost entirely, and you can only find one or two notes in it, then the mouthfeel and then the flavors that came through from that, it was a completely different experience. And I'm so glad.
Exactly.
Tried it, yeah.
Same really... So we tried it at the beginning and we tried it just before the end. Yeah. Exactly the same liquid. Just in two different formats. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. As it comes from the bottle in the room temperature or out of the freezer, and just the mouthfeel, the body of it when you're pouring it, the way it reacts in the glass is just completely different. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, guys and girls and everybody else, just experiment. Play with your whiskey. It's what it's there for. It's for sharing. It's for playing with. It's a toy. Use it like that. Just don't give it to the kids.
Smoky Cokey for me was one of the first things.
Exactly.
It was actually Richard Foster of Exploring English Whiskey that suggested that. I think in a tasting I was on with him probably 6 or 7 months ago, so not a great deal of time ago at all. And he said Smoky Cokey, so a Lagavulin 16 and a Coke is what I had.
Yeah.
But I started doing it recently with our Sven's Rook, and it is absolutely delicious. If you've got a bottle of Sven's Rook at home, or any sample left from tastings that you've done with us, pop that in a little bit of Coke and see. But a smoky whiskey and Coca-Cola or any other cola product that you can find really good. What about a new Matt? How adventurous do you get, or is there a particular thing you like?
So I'm completely open to sticking virtually anything with anything, if you excuse the expression.
It is before
there
the
you go.
Shop,
and until you've tried it, how do you know? Smoky Cokey is absolutely one of my favorite pours. The other one would be a highball. I think highballs are amazing, particularly in the summer months. A few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I bought a bottle of Lagavulin Game of Thrones 9-year-old for half price off of Amazon. It's, in my opinion, probably the nicest bottle in that series of not limited expressions. And there you go. And at half price, that's good stuff. And so I opened it and I made a Smoky Cokey out of it, and it was delicious. It was fantastic. I stuck it on Twitter and just said something like, "It's been a hard week, Smoky Cokey it is." And there was a few people that called me out for sacrilege. How could I mix a single malt with Coke? And I didn't, because I didn't want to cause a scene on the Friday night. I wanted to go back and basically say, what about a whiskey being made in one distillery means you can't mix it?
Yeah,
because that's what they're talking about. If I'd said I've got this blend and I'm sticking it in Coke, no one would have said a thing, right?
Not a chance.
But equally, the fact that a single malt with Coke, what? So it was made in one place, and suddenly Coke is not an option. It's ridiculous. Try it as you might. I mean, if you want to stick, and I've heard tales of people in old expensive Macallan bottles. If you want to stick something really expensive in a cocktail, go for it. It's your whiskey. Whatever floats your boat. But there are no rules. Thanks, Dave. Great to see you.
Well, I would say there's the only rule for me is that there's only one way to drink whiskey, and that's however you want to drink it.
With your mouth.
Correct.
Well, that's it. Yeah, get the oldness right. Get the right old.
Being a long time rugby player, I can certainly attest to that's not the only way you can ingest your alcohol.
You rugby boys, and your naughtiness.
Right, but that's outside of the rules, Mickey.
It is. No, you're correct. You're correct. Up the nose is definitely not the way to go off a dessert spoon. Please don't do it that way. It hurts and it's not nice.
Shot through the eye.
Oh no! So we're going to go with Kevin and Perry eyeball pull. Oh, eyeball pull.
But no, I go on, mate.
No, go on after you, pal.
I was going to say, I wish that people. I think it's one way that whiskey can broaden its appeal, and that's through cocktails. Because cocktails, not everyone likes them, but a lot of people like them, and they're so versatile. You can get so many different flavors while still retaining a base character of whatever style of whiskey you're using. But there is this, and it comes from quite a lot of whiskey tradition. There is this stigma around what you should and what shouldn't do, what type of glassware, what type of ice. And I just think it's a bit of a grind for everyone in the industry and for fans and for enthusiasts just to get over it and just to drink it how you want to drink it, and if you want to explore it however you do, and I think that will in turn encourage more people to get into the category. I mean, the first whiskey that I really sort of started drinking was Dewar's White Label, and I was drinking that on a plane regularly with ginger. That's how I got into whiskey. I was traveling a lot when I was about 18 for work, and it was just Dewar's White Label and ginger. And that's how I got into whiskey. I didn't get into whiskey drinking it neat. And equally, there'll be a lot of people that You know, do you like spirits? Do you like a mixer with it? Do you like a cocktail? Maybe. But sort of closing down avenues to explore something just seems foolish, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You know, and I'm a big proponent of, you know, there are that many distilleries around the world, right? You're gonna find one that suits you. You will, if you give it time and enough research. But my good lady, exactly. My good lady, she's not a big fan of whiskey, and you know, as you can see behind me, I've got quite a lot to choose from. I get her to try most things, and her face goes, ugh. But one thing she does like is whiskey cream liqueurs, so like your Aaron Golds and all that sort of stuff.
Lovely.
She enjoys that.
Lovely.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Who am I to say, oh, well, that's not a whiskey? Well, no, it is. The base for it is come from whiskey. So do you know if that's your favourite whiskey? Boom. More than happy. I'm taking that as a win for a whiskey drink. Do you know what I mean?
So my partner Heather, or my fiance, I should actually say, she only really likes smoky whiskey, which means that I need to guard my favourite ones on the shelf. So Electric's her favourite.
Or just buy more of them, Rich.
Or just buy. Yeah, I should just do that. So I've actually we've done that in a couple. Lefroy Glore, we ended up buying a couple off because we were going through it too quickly together. And the Spencer Rook as well tickles her fancy.
Right.
I'll say just about touching last thing sort of on or perhaps on cocktails and mixing and things like that. Camille Sonka, one of our colleagues, Mickey, who I think he might be with us tonight in the comments. He's our star behind the bar. He's an expert mixologist. He knows, you know, he's got so much expertise when it comes to how to balance things and how to create things. And he made so many original cocktails for us for our Mackmyra and Friends show that we were doing throughout the first lockdown and the subsequent months. So one of the things that he said that, you know, resonated with me was a good way of looking at it is, if you're a chef, you know, let me start back a bit actually. So when you make a cocktail, some people might think, and we talked about some of these characters, that you shouldn't put certain whiskies into cocktails. You should only put, you know, lesser, you know, however they view that as, into it. But you do that and you end up with poor ingredients in the mix. If you're a chef, you know that you're making a dish. The quality of the ingredients is so important for the end product and end result, and for someone to enjoy it and appreciate it, that you need to put good quality products in it. So the better the whiskey is, you know, that you put into your cocktail or into whatever highball you have, the better product you're going to get as well. So I think you should open your minds up to not just putting whatever bottle you might tend to see, you know, upside down behind a bar with an auto pour in the end. Experiment with the nice ones that you've got as well. But Matt, you spoke about, what was it? Was it Dewar's White Label? You said then that's quite a memorable one for you. But what's your most, you know, memorable whiskies? Your favourite whiskey? Anything like that?
Favorite? I mean, my favorite is and probably always will be Le Chic. That's just the type of guy that I am. Best whiskey I've ever tried, possibly Highland Park 40-year-old. It's just quite ethereal, you know, a little bit amazing. Not something I have a bottle of. Not something that most people are going to get a bottle of.
No, it's not a common everyday. It's not a common everyday.
It's not an everyday dram for all sorts of reasons. I don't know, mate. Anything, virtually anything. I spend a high proportion of my life trying whiskies, not just from Bimber, but from all over the world.
I mean, you're on judging panels and stuff like that for whiskey, aren't you, Matt? You know.
Go on.
Said you're on judging panels for whiskey.
Yeah.
I've
judged whiskey competitions. Yeah. I mean, those are blind. You only get to find out what you've tasted after the fact. So yeah, I'm very agnostic about it. I definitely have preferences. If you said to me, Matt, what would your ideal whiskey be? It would be peated.
Stop. Don't ruin what's going to be my last question.
Your last question.
Yeah. So in a little bit, when we get to a last question, right, I'm going to ask you something, and it's going to include this bit, okay? So let's not ruin that.
Well, I can cut in there anyway and just ask if you guys have poured a second drink, because you know, I'm on the Shush Bash Rook, the new moment, which is coming out on the 25th. Oh, here we go. Carl might have a better picture he can throw up of it.
That is a lot of umlaut.
Yeah. Yeah. Shush Bash Rook.
That is three of them. 3 sets.
Yeah, we're calling it PBR amongst Mickey and the team. Just easier to say. But cherry smoke, it translates into cherry smoke. So this is 4 casks 2 elegant recipe unpeated spirit in ex-bourbon, and 1 ex-bourbon cask, 1 American oak cask, both of which we've treated with cherry wine from a German producer, Amarella Kirsch, which so cherry wine chaps from Germany, so quite high quality cherry wine from them. And yeah, it's full of tar and smoke and sort of like damp smoke and definitely cherries and dark fruits, and it's
the cherry. It's like Black Forest Gatto, a barbecue in the Black Forest. Imagine that, a barbecue in Black Forest. Boom.
I'm looking forward to this, guys. This is sounding quite nice.
Well, you've got a sample now.
Yeah, no, I know. I haven't got to it yet. There's, I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me.
There's probably a queue waiting,
It's all over there. I'm swimming. I'm probably actually going to do some reviews and write about how you need to try and manage your samples, because you know, if you've just got loads of samples, you get to them when you get to them. But I make it a rule that if a brand sends me a sample, that I will write about it, because you know, you've sent me something and the return favor is I'll give you my thoughts, and they might be good, they might be bad, they might be indifferent, but I will do that. And so yeah, you get to the point of trying to manage all the samples. So you know, I'm going to get to the Mackmyra, but it might not be this side of Christmas. You know,
you get to it when you get to it.
I'm looking forward to it. You've certainly promoted it on the schedule.
If you can get to it before Christmas, or at least while it's winter still, Matt, you'll be doing yourself a favour, because it's very much a winter's dram. It's very much a winter's dram, and it's interesting. You actually pointed behind you. I saw you've got your models there and a Dalek up the top. It looks
there is an old early 90s Seavans Dalek, yeah.
Because that just made me think. We went to the lengths of trying to get some. You know, we said we were going to talk to you about your interests outside of whiskey too.
Yeah.
Actually, we've got a number of pictures that Carl, if he's been on the ball with what I've been saying, he might have things of pumpkin carving, of which you are a world champion, a European champion.
No, not so. I've won various pumpkin competitions, but I wouldn't say I'm any type of champion. Everyone loves Mackmyra. So yeah, once a year, I just piddle around with gourds. That was this year. That was very appropriate to this year, I felt. I tried to do a few topical ones.
It certainly was.
That was something that about utopian future, more and more like modern day times.
So we actually spoke about Dark Crystal on last night's show, actually.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
So Jim,
so that's something that I am sort of known for, but it only happens once a year. And it's a bit weird to be known for something that only happens once a year.
Are there people, Matt, that know you for your pumpkin carving, and that, you know, they followed you, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, this guy does whiskey too? Like we didn't know you did pumpkins until recently.
No, it doesn't tend to work that way around. I mean, I generally find people like, oh, whiskey, wow, nice pumpkins. The pumpkin people, it doesn't tend to work the other way.
Is the community not as large, perhaps, for the pumpkin carving community as whiskey?
It's just, I don't know. My ex-wife was American, and I started doing pumpkins.
Is she not American anymore? No.
No, but she's still my ex-wife. And when she came over, she's like, "Are we doing some pumpkins?" I was like, "I suppose." She's like, "You don't seem keen." And I'm like, "Yeah, because it's just getting a pumpkin and carving some shapes in it." And she said, "Well, you could do more if you wanted." And so I did. And so the first pumpkin I ever did properly was I did Puss from Shrek.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
And it was all right. And we got a few kids round and they were like, nice pumpkin. And I'm like, oh, actually, that was okay. And yeah, just been doing it every year. You know, find a template, find a picture, or sometimes if I have time, which I haven't had for the last 2 years, draw it out yourself. There's one of Ozzy Osbourne that I did by hand, and that took about 6 hours.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
That's dedication to pumpkin carving, that one, brother.
I think it's funny that that she said, "Oh, should we do some pumpkins?" And you were like, yeah, okay." And then you found out that actually you were the chosen one, and you were born to do it.
God, if I was going to be the chosen one, I would have felt of something else other than pumpkins, if I'm honest.
We've all got our skills.
Wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all?
I saw you pouring one of ours there, Matt. What was
Yeah, so no, it's a pleasure to see you both, and thank you for inviting me. I've dug into my bottle stash, and I've pulled out not quite a heel, but almost of Winterglad, which
Nice.
also feels quite, quite
Very apt.
topical, seasonal, festive. Very nice, yeah. Getting in the zone for those sort of deep mold fruits and Christmas spices. So yeah.
There's not a lot of that left around the country, by the way, Winterglad. In fact, I don't think we've got any on the web shop at all. I definitely don't think we've got any left for out to businesses. So yeah, because obviously the seasonal range, guys. Bear in mind, it's only like 15 to 20,000 bottles, depending on what seasonal it was. So they are quite limited. And Winterglad was what two and a bit years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's not, if you can find some really good retailer, or is that the right word, or maybe an out of the way retailer that might have a bottle or two left on their shelf, a Bimber pumpkin. Cool.
So if you look at Bimber's social accounts, been there. So this year I did a little glass. I've done a Glencairn glass with Bimber under it, and last year I actually did the whole logo, which was quite challenging, and I only had about an hour. So you will see a Bimber pumpkin every year that I'm there, and if you look on our social accounts, you'll see that there's a Glencairn with some liquid in it. It's fairly straightforward.
We could maybe get you to do a Mackmyra one next year, mate. So that shouldn't be too difficult for you.
That's really easy. Yeah, have whiskey will work.
Yeah, no bother. We'll send you a bottle. You send us a pumpkin. Job done.
Job done.
Mick, what about you? What have you got for a second dram? I've seen you pick up a bottle there, or have you got some in your glass?
But I went for my second dram is a Head de Teeth.
Oh, that's my favourite thing.
It's Skål de Ted.
Yeah.
Head de Teeth. It's basically the harvest.
Okay, that's good. That's on the quiz next week, guys. So well timed.
It's going to be, mate. Honestly, it's going to be. Hopefully, I've curried enough favour with Angela. I sent her a cookbook from last Friday's show. We were talking about stuff, and we mentioned about like whiskey and food pairings and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And I got to know lately, I've actually been using a particular curry book from so a whiskey friend of ours, and actually an alumni of yours from today, Matt, as well. Jamie of Glenturret.
Yep.
Yeah. So he sat his GCD along with you today, or not alongside you, but
this over the last 10 days. Yeah. Class of 2020. Hopefully. Yeah. I know Jamie was doing it, so I hope I hope it went well for him. It was damn difficult.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be easy, is it? But if it was easy, Matt, everybody would be doing it.
Everyone would have it. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah,
exactly. But no, so talking to Angela about like food pairs, I said, actually, I'm using a book. So a friend of Jamie's, she wrote a cookbook over lockdown.
Nice.
Or lockdown number 1, should I say? And it's the mostly Indian batch cooking cookbook, and it's been phenomenal. Quite frankly, I've made about 4 or 5 things out of it. Not all of them have turned out how I maybe wanted them to, or the cookbook would have wanted them to, but most of them have done. So speak to Angela. She's like, that book.
Little known fact: before I got into whiskey, I went to cookery school.
Okay.
And so that was potentially going to be something that I was going to do, and I prolapsed my lumbar spine on the golf course, and thus ended my cooking career because you need to be able to stand up all day. And at that point, I could barely stand up for 2 minutes. And so I still keep up my cooking. I like my cooking, but yeah, way back when that was one of those, how you go through life and you could go down this path or that path, and hopefully you end up somewhere where you're like, well, I made the right choices. At one point in time, that was doing the cooking thing was a potential for me. Now I just watch MasterChef.
As they say in Glasgow, mate, what's for you won't go by you. So, but what's your favourite drinking food pairing then? It doesn't have to be a whiskey. What's your favourite drinking food pairing?
I'll be honest, mate. I'm not. So I'm wine and food. I am not a big wine drinker, and that goes again back to time, and liver. So if I go out for a meal, a nice meal, I do like a glass of wine. I do think that of all of the boozes, that wine is the cleverest and the most complicated and the most adaptable to different foods. For me, wine doesn't just necessarily pair; it actively changes with food. Whereas so it's like I tried it now. I tried it with the food. It's different. It's enhancing, and I think that's an amazing thing. I do not find that with beer. I do not find that with whiskey to such an extent. So, if you ask me, Matt, let's do a food and drink pairing. What would you like? My answer is going to be wine, but that's doesn't happen very often. And at the moment, it doesn't happen at all because we can't go out of our houses, and
yeah. But Mickey,
with that being in mind, I've experimented more in the house, Matt. Really, with like not just wine, but like different whiskey cocktails. I've even got into a little bit of the gin. To be honest with you, as well.
Gin's a fun thing. Gin's a fun thing.
Yeah, I've had lots of fun. Obviously during the warmer weather, not recently, obviously, but during the warmer weather, out the back cutting the grass and that. We've got a couple of nice blackberry bushes that grow in our garden, and some of the branches from next door's garden come through mine as well. So I'll take his blackberries off of that one as well. And,
do some infusions.
Yeah. So, not necessarily infusions either, but what I like to do is literally pop in, put the lawnmower away, pop in, do myself a lab gin in our creator tonic, pop back out and put a handful of blackberries in, but give them a wee squeeze as they go in. And then just like sit there on the picnic bench in the garden.
Just to sort of break the skins a little bit. Yeah.
That sounds good. So when you put something that Camille that we've talked about Camille already. So our star behind the bar, our mixologist ambassador of ours. He said when you put mint leaves into a cocktail, just give them a little rub between your fingers, not too hard because you end up it can make it quite bitter. But if you just activate it, you'll activate the mint within by giving it a little rub, then pop it in, and you get all the aroma comes exploding out of it. For food,
and a lot of bartenders do, Rich, as well, is give it a slap in the hand.
Oh, okay,
so they give it a slap to like wake it up, essentially. Okay. Pretty much, like what Camille was saying with a wee rub. So that puts some heat into it, to get the juices up. With a slap, just sort of like awakens it. So it probably does it to do with the concentration of mint that you're going to want. So a wee slap just for a little bit, and a wee rub, probably for a bit more of an intense mint flavour, I would imagine. Camille, please chip in and tell us if that's correct or not.
It sounds clever to me, but food and whiskey pairing for me is something I haven't really explored a great deal with. I know that we're keen to do more and more of it. We've been talking about it internally. I had the Southport Whiskey Festival a few weeks ago, months ago now. I had a Douglas Lang pack, and that was all single grain whiskey. And they sent along a couple of little chocolates as well. And Fred Lang came along talking to people and said, "Oh, have a little nibble of the caramel here with this." So I think for me now, chocolate and or caramel with some single grain whiskey, I think seemed to go. I can't remember the mechanics or the science behind it that they explained, but I just remember I had a brilliant experience with the pair of them. So for me, that's something I'd encourage anyone to have a look at, and also just exploring single grains to begin with as well. It's a whole nother topic, probably, without going into it now, but have an explore and see what else you can find.
And what I'd quite like to do is have a nice large.
Here we go.
Oh, nice.
Here we go. Yeah.
There we go. Simple stuff.
I like the recharge part as well.
I'd have to put about 15 pumpkins before I got to that.
Nah, fine.
So Matt, where are all the pictures of the outtakes, where the pumpkins that you just spun it around to do it into the other side because you messed up one half of it? That's what we want to see.
So I can honestly say that in like 15 years of doing it, I've never completely messed one up, but there has been some where the knife has just slipped and you've cut through a bit. And so what I do in those circumstances is I get a cocktail stick and just shave it down, and then you can basically dowel it back together. I can hand on heart say that I haven't had one that I've just gone and completely messed it up. I mean, effectively what you're doing is you're templating, right? So you're sticking a template on either that you've got or you've drawn. And I do a bit of both, some that I download, some that I create myself. and then you get a pin, and you go.
And then you
That's
play
the bit that takes hours. And then when you take it off, then the skin oxidates, so it's a darker color. Then you can draw it on, and then it's just sitting there with an X-Acto knife for quite a while. Yeah. So no, I've never had one. I've completely and utterly. The Bimber one's actually interesting in that it's quite small, so the tea lights kept blowing out because there wasn't enough oxygen getting into the pumpkin. There you go. Odd fact.
It was interesting to hear about your minimal amount of mistakes, and I think that goes to solidify what I said about the chosen one. Natural at the very least. Yeah.
Oh, I'm honoured.
So, Matt, do you make like pumpkin pie or a pumpkin soup or anything like that with the innards?
No, I wish, mate. But actually, when you go to the shops and you get all the Halloween pumpkins and it says carving pumpkin, it's exactly that. And the fruit inside a carving pumpkin is not really suitable for making into anything delicious. If you want to, my recommendation would be to explore your supermarket and to look for smaller gourds. You know, the little ones like that. They're going to make delicious soups. But yeah, carving pumpkin, it's going to be quite bitter and astringent. And they're there for the kids to have fun and for grown men like me who haven't grown up.
Nice.
Adult in body, but not in mind. I like it.
Mickey, I'm realising now we're about an hour and 20 minutes in. I think there might be some people watching from home that could do with, we might fancy going to get some dinner. But you said that you had an ending
great finishing question. A great finishing question.
Bloody brilliant one. Yeah.
So Matt, we're going to start introducing this. Actually, I do it on my podcast, the Quake Podcast, for when I have a guest on, and it's what is your ideal whiskey scenario? Where are you? What's in the glass? Who are you with, if anybody? You know, because sometimes it's nice to just be on your own. But if you're with people, great. So your ideal whiskey scenario. Where are you? What's in the glass? Who are you with, if anybody?
Can I jump in before Matt starts and just say I challenged you at the beginning then and said it better be a bloody brilliant question because it's the ending thing. I didn't know what you're going to ask, and I think that is a fantastic question. I'm looking forward to what you have to say, Matt.
Okay. I am with good friends, and that could be anybody. You know, friends. You whether that's whiskey friends or non-friends, but I'm with other people because I do believe that you know, any type of drinking is a social activity. And I generally divide it. You know, I do drink alone. Which if you look on medical sites is often a warning sign. But it's you know, it's to write notes and to write, you know, for Bimber I'm writing all of the you know, the bottle descriptions and the tasting notes, and for my website I'm writing reviews. So when I'm not doing that, when I'm actively enjoying something, I want to be with other people, any type of friends, whether they like whiskey or not. Where am I? That could be anywhere, but at the moment I'm going to say anywhere that isn't my house. What is it? Right, here we go. So it is peated. It is ex-bourbon matured, and it is in a refill cask. Right, that's kind of my template. If you say, Matt, create a whiskey that you're going to like, refill ex-bourbon with an element of peat, I'm going to like that. There you go. And it could be anything along those lines. I mean, that, you know, in terms of what actually exists, you've got things like Ardmore, big fan of that. Obviously the Lechig that we've spoken about a lot, but then the more traditional whiskies in terms of the Peters, Ardbeg. I have quite a lot of time for Ardbeg. I wish you'd see more of it at a reasonable price. Alas, you don't. Same with Lefroy. So yeah, something along those lines. But you know, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and if you came up and said I've got a whiskey and it's first fill and it's sherried and you have to drink it on your own under the stairs, yeah, all right then.
When Harry Potter got a habit.
Harry Potter, exactly.
That sounds like a good range of scenarios.
You're a pumpkin carver, Harry.
Well, that I'll say that's probably the perfect way and the perfect moment to close out the
reel.
Fantastic, Matt.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to see you. I can't wait to see you in person. It's been way too long, but thank you so much for inviting me on and for having a chat. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. It's been very entertaining and illuminating. Lots of things to learn as well. So really appreciated it. And Mickey, my fellow landlord, my co-landlord of the Mackmyra Inn, knocked out of the park again, especially with that question at the end. That's what I'd like to see us asking people every week.
I think that's what we're going to do, Rich. I think that's what we're going to do. So anybody watching that's coming on, anybody that wants to come on, drop us a message. But that will be our rounding out question, shall we say?
I think so.
Which I think is quite a nice setter. So Matt, thanks for being on guinea pig on that.
You're most welcome, guys, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And yeah, good luck with the end of the year and what you got planned, and these pubs. And look forward to actually seeing you guys and everyone else in actual pub next year. It's a date.
Let's do it.
Brother, definitely.
Let's do it.
So yeah, well, thank you everyone for watching. Thanks for our patrons at home. I hope you've had a good time. Remember to log on to mackmyra.co.uk to see what our Black Friday and Cyber Monday offers are. If you go onto the homepage, I think it's the first thing that you see at the moment, and there are some brilliant offers on there, I will say. To have a look at that. And the 29th of December, I've got the date right, for our Christmas show as well. And there's a Christmas tasting pack that I actually saw contents of, and that is a particularly interesting pack from us. So have a look and check it out. And the last thing I'll say, the Kushbar Rook. If you go onto our website, you're able to choose your own number. Some are unavailable now, between 1 and 100. And if you don't choose a number, we'll send you a bottle of a 5cl of the Moment 22, which if
we've got any left.
If we've got any left, yeah. So act quickly, as they say. So. Mickey, thanks again. Matt, been an absolute pleasure. We knew it would, and thank you for coming. And to everyone at home, thanks for joining, and hope to see you again next time. Cheers.
Skål.
Okay, guys.
Skål.
Happy weekend.